Well, hello, fellow app music makers. Jay here from App Music Tutorials with yet another Zenbeats video. In the previous tutorial, we took a look at song templates, which are a great way to set up all your tracks, effects, sends, automation, and more in just a few clicks. Today will be the first in a three-part series covering various types of automation. So welcome to Lesson 14, Part 1 of this automation series. During this lesson, we'll take a look at what automation is, what are the various types of automation, and specifically how to use automation in the sequencer track. Automation is the ability to change one or more parameters in a mix automatically. For instance, it's very common to automate track volume and pan settings in a mixdown, as well as control various parameters for delays, reverbs, and other effects. In Zenbeats, we have many types of automation. For example, the sequencer has its own set of natural parameters we can adjust that are automatable, such as velocity, pan, pitch, and so forth. And in addition to the effects that can be applied naturally in the sequencer, we can also add additional effects such as reverbs, delays, and so forth to each sound in the sequencer, and then automate those sounds as well. So there's a lot going on, so let's take a look at how we get started. Let's start by creating a new song. I'm just going to click New Song on the home page. And I don't like this yellow placeholder color. I'm just going to long press or right click and change the color, something I prefer. And so the first type of automation we're going to cover is sequencer automation. Let's open the sequencer and let's go to the pattern selector and shuffle through that until we come to Big Beat 6. There we go. And let's go down to the lower left and open up the inspector panel. And let's start talking about how we automate the sounds here in the sequencer. By the way, I covered many of the options over here in the inspector in the advanced drum sequencer tactics video. So if you wanted to go back and take a look at that, there's a card that should be appearing just about now. All right, so each sound in the sequencer, you can see we're kind of changing sounds there, has its own set of parameters, right? It has its own set of tools here for pan and gain and tune and a low pass filter and your high pass filter. In addition to that, we can add effects to each sample, multiple effects if we want. But let's first learn about the natural automation that's already here available in the sequencer. Let's go down to the Goa Groove Shaker. And now to access automation mode, what you need to do is either double click on the sound kind of over on the left side. If you do the right side, it'll start playing the sound. So I'll double click this and notice how it places this sample at the top. And now if you look below that sample name, you can see here are the basic automations that are built in to Zenbeats. And this is without applying any effects. These are just naturally occurring automations that we can apply to any one of these sounds. So velocity is kind of like volume, but not really. I mean, velocity is really how hard are you striking a note? You know, how intensely is the sound being played? So we can control that. And a reason that people might want to control that and change it up a bit is because it gives more of a human vibe. Because really, as a human percussion player, you're not really hitting every single note at the same intensity every single strike. We are not machines. So because of that, we can actually make things sound more natural by adjusting velocity. And so if we continue on to the next bar here, you can draw it into, or you can click around. For instance, I can click here to drop this down, or I can just kind of drag and drop. And you can see how that kind of works out, and I can pick what I want to, what velocities I want to apply to each note here. And now I'm ready to play back. And I want to solo this sound, by the way. I'm going to play this back so we can take a listen. Okay, so I can hear a little bit of a distinction, but let's bring these way down, some of these way down. And you can notice that when you manipulate the velocity, the shading of the note becomes more transparent or more opaque. So when you see that it's dark, it's transparent looking, it means that there's less of the effect applied. And if it's fully opaque, it means that we've got like 100%, or I should say 127 for our velocity, since it's a MIDI sensitive number. Now let's go ahead and play this back. And now you can really hear where the volume, or rather the velocity, is dropped down based on our note selection. Let's see how that sits in the rest of the mix. And I gave it a little more gain so it would stand out in the mix. But imagine taking every sound and manipulating it exactly the way you want it. And this is just the velocity. A really neat aspect of this velocity automation is that you don't have to be in the automation editor to manipulate the velocity at all. In fact, let's go ahead and double click on the Goa Groove Shaker again here towards the left. And here what I can do, because velocity is such an important parameter, I can just click and drag. You can see as I drag up it goes opaque, as I drag down it goes transparent. And I can use that for setting velocity. So a very easy way to come through here and humanize different elements of the sequencer. Really, really neat. So I'm going to go back into the Goa Groove Shaker, back into the automation mode, and just double click here. If you want to clear any automation, you can do that by just clicking the Clear Automation button below. If you want to change automation values, meaning if you want to change to a different type of parameter, you can, for instance, choose any of these other options. Let's choose pan. That's pretty popular. So by automating pan, it means that things go left and right, kind of bounce back and forth left and right in the stereo field. So I'm just going to set this up as such. I'm just clicking as far down or as far up as I want to, and it basically draws the line here. And you can see as you look at the very bottom, you know, what's the percentage of the signal that's being sent right or left and so on. You can see those values here numerically at the bottom of the screen. So we can continue to go through and modify, and we don't even have to make every single one, you know, change sides. We can just do it every now and then with a sound that kind of throws people, you know, a little excitement or something a little bit different every now and then. So let's play this back, and I'm going to solo this for sure because I want you to hear the pan effect. All right, so that sounds pretty awesome. Again, if you wanted to clear the automation, you could go down below. Now, if you are looking at other automations from your list, you can tell which ones are currently active, again, because of this blue circle to the right of the option. So if you wanted to reverse engineer what you did, if you wanted to reset things, you'd want to come to the menu and then maybe go back to the pan and then clear the automation. So let's go ahead and take a look at another instrument. And another way to close this window, by the way, instead of double clicking the sound, is to go over to the X here, just close out, and we'll be back to our main sequencer window. For this demonstration, let's apply an effect to a sound. Let's apply the Bit Crusher effect to the CT kick 020. To do that, I first select the sound, and then I click the effect button And I'm going to choose Bit Crusher, click on the plus to add that. And now I can see here's my Bit Crusher effect. I'm going to go through a couple of these presets. Let me put it on light grimy crush, and I'm just going to solo the bass for now. So the rate allows you to really twist the sound around a lot. It has a lot more control over radically changing the sound than any of these other options here do. So let's suppose I wanted to automate the rate here, that rate parameter. I can do that. And here's how you do it. The first thing you have to do is what we just did. We just added an effect. We pulled that down for the time being. So we've added the effect, and then we're able to automate it. So to automate it, it's the same principle. We can either go into the automation menu here, or we can double click, and that'll bring us into our automation. Now, the last page we were on for automation was pan, so that's what displays here. So it doesn't necessarily always display velocity. But if you click on this button, regardless, you'll see down below the natural effects we can apply automation to for the sequencer. Now that we've added an effect to the sound, we have the Bit Crusher, and these are all the automatable parameters in the Bit Crusher. And I want to automate the rate. So when you go to draw in automation for effects, not the built-in ones that really rely on those drawbars, but additional effects like the Bit Crusher that were added independently of those built-in effects, we are going to have some options for actually drawing in the automation curves. So the pointer tool really doesn't do anything until you start to have your automation data out there. And to paint automation data, we can use the paintbrush. Now there's another way to add automation data, and that's by using this little connector option. I don't know exactly what it's called, but this option allows us to draw and manipulate things in a different way, and also save system resources, which is pretty cool. So to draw this out, I'm just going to grab my paint tool, and I'm just going to just draw an automation wave. And that's on the first bar of my beat. If I go to the second bar, now I can just, again, click, drag, and I'm doing a really clumsy job here. Sorry, everyone. And it still draws in all the automation. And we'll talk about how to really manipulate this automation in another part of this lesson, in part 3, as a matter of fact. So I've got my automation out here. Let's take a listen to this with the automation. All right, it's kind of goofy, but let's see how it sits in the mix. So it's all in whatever you think sounds good. It's just a real quick way to show you how you can use that paint tool and draw in your automation curves. To clear the automation, again, we can just clear the automation here. And so I'm going to do that. Another tool you can use is the little connector tool. And what I have figured out, because I could not find this anywhere, and I was quite frustrated with this tool, is that it works a lot better if I just draw a line all the way across. And then what I can do is grab onto this point here and start shaping whatever curve I want. And then what I can do is add points. I just click right here and I've added a point, and let's say I want this to, the level to be higher for the effect on this next hit, and then I want it to be lower on the next one. So I'm basically drawing in a curve. And this is a lot easier on your system resources, because whenever you see all those dots, all those automation points all cluttered together, just imagine how many system resources that's using just to, make the automation occur when you really don't need that many points. It's a lot easier on your system if you just use a few points, effectively draw in what you need to draw, and not have a real busy, completely painted in automation curve. So at any rate, that's how we can curve this. Let's go into the next bar, and we already have this red line. So how do we manipulate this? So what I do is I start by clicking and dragging here on this line, and now I've created my own middle button where I can start to manipulate things. If you drag, you'll get 3 points. You'll get the original point, you'll get this little puppy right here, the solid point, and then you get another circle point. This one here, the solid point, allows you to start drawing curves, to make things curve instead of going in a straight line. And I'm going to play this back. At any rate, that's how we can utilize the built-in automatable effects, which are part of this list. Once we add an effect to one of these sounds from the inspector, then we can actually go down and automate any of those parameters. Let's take a look at one more type of automation, and this is pattern automation. I'm going to close this window here. Up at the top, just click that X. And then here, right up here in this cluster of options, the pattern automation button, and this is going to be the same button for a lot of different automations. In fact, this makes a lot of sense, seeing these connector points. But if I choose this, I can add a new automation, and I see whatever naturally occurring automations I have here. Let's suppose I want to add a high cut filter. I want to automate that. I can click the high cut option. And then again, I've got my tools up here. Okay, and they work the same way. Got the pointer, got the paintbrush, and have the little line tool or connector tool. So if I paint it here, again, it's the same principle. I just start drawing a curve to my liking, and now I have a bunch of different data points. And that's fine, okay? It's not going to ruin your mix if you have a lot of data points. It's just easier on your system resources if you have fewer. The fewer data points you have, typically, when you're drawing your automation, the less system resources are necessary to keep up with that automation. At any rate, let me go to the next bar. And here, I'm just going to draw across and let go, and we can see that we've got these, and I don't really want to keep this, but I just wanted to paint this because I want to show you when this selector tool comes in handy. So now that I've got a bunch of these data points, or automation points, I can start to clear things out and do things in mass. Let's say I just want to get rid of this whole segment here. I'm going all the way. Now I can just release, and you'll see that all of these are selected, and to get rid of it, you can either hit your delete key or click on this little trash can at the top, and now we've just eliminated some data points. And now we've really brought down the number of data points that are necessary to do what we want to do. All right, so let's play this back and hear how this sounds against the whole mix. And again, this is just the pattern that's being affected. It's affecting everything on the pattern. It's not affecting the track. The pattern is part of the track, but it's actually being applied to the pattern, this automation. So I'll play back. Let me go back and close this window here that has our overlay. And let me play it back now. It was only playing through one bar. Let me back that up and play it one more time so we can get the full effect. So anyway, the automation here is really great. Let me show you another view of the automation curve that we just drew in the pattern. I'm going to close this window and make sure you're over in timeline view, which is where I am. And let me blow this up just a tiny bit. And then if you take a close enough look, you'll notice that I've got that wiggly little line in there that represents my automation curves that I drew in and manipulated. And then it's going to be the same, since it's a loop, it's going to be the same for each loop. So if I wanted to continue to loop, I would still have that automation within the pattern. So the automation and the pattern are connected as one. I hope you found this video helpful. If so, then please take a moment to give it a thumbs up. If you like the channel and would like to get notifications automatically of new videos, please consider subscribing and make sure you click that little bell. And if you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback, please leave it in the comments area. Again, thanks for watching, and take care until next time.